Okay, we're back here at the Rat Retreat, part 2 of setting up for dinner. So on the refrigerator it says N/V, or maybe the other way around, for Natasha and Vanessa's cage. So another thing you need to be aware of before you start preparing dinner is make sure you know if one of the rats is in the hospital area or in the play area or somehow separated from its cage. So Vanessa has been in the hospital area, so we're going to need to do a separate dish for her. So where it says Natasha's cage, use 1 dish, 4 servings in the dish, we're actually going to use a separate dish for Vanessa and then 3 servings in the other dish. So just have an awareness of what's going on before you do this. So also for a rat that is ill, or such as Vanessa has hind leg paralysis, we want to use a flat dish because she's going to have a little trouble raising herself up over this big dish. So she's going to get a flat dish. Now, all of the dishes have names written on them, and sometimes there'll be a name on each side, unless it's been worn off. So if you can't locate a dish that has the name that you're looking for, write it on there. And also, as you're laying out the dishes, you want the name of the cage that you're serving. For instance, if you're laying out for Pax's, make the name face you. So that way, whichever side of the counter you're working on, we know that the name is outward facing, and that way, if you have to leave before dinner actually is served, or in the middle of fixing dinner, then somebody else can step right in and see this is supposed to be Pax's dish. Alright, so I didn't have a dish that said Natasha on it, so I'm going to make sure that's written on there. We use a Sharpie, and they wash off. Sometimes if they don't, we'll write over them, but just make sure it's clear that that says Natasha. And then there were no dishes for Zoe, because we just renamed the cage, so I'm going to be marking 3 dishes for Zoe. Alright, so the next step is going to be deciding what's for dinner. You can't see it from here, but over the sink, there's a counter that's next to the sink to the left, and there's a whiteboard, such as this one here, except that it's got dinner on it. It's got, for instance, Sunday, and then 3 little abbreviations, Monday, 3 different abbreviations. So you have to choose dinner. That's part of fixing dinner. Keep in mind, rats need to have yams and beans twice a week. So if you're going to prepare a yam, you have to do that at the beginning of your shift. It should be scrubbed and holes poked in it and cooked at 350 degrees for at least an hour. You will know whether it's done or not by poking a fork in it. And it has to be done. The fork has to go in very easily. So this is a good opportunity also to toss in there that there's 3 important steps to doing your job here at the Rat Retreat. You prepare for your job, you do the job, you clean up after the job. Always allow yourself time at the end of your shift. Prepare ahead and plan 5 or 10 minutes to clean up, whatever you think you're going to need. Exceptions would be if you're in the middle of dinner and there's no way you're going to finish in time. I would rather you get started on dinner and let me finish it if you have to do that. So, but preparing, come in and look at the list and see what you're going to be doing. See the schedule. Are there going to be any other volunteers here with you? If there's not, come check the dinner menu. Do I need to cook a yam at the beginning of the shift and get it started? Beans take 2 days. So you can check and see if there's any beans in the refrigerator. If there's no beans in the refrigerator, you'll go out to the garage and get from our bag of dried beans. You'll fill a colander, which is this blue colander over the stove, and you fill it to about right here. And the beans do not have to be washed. Usually they do, but you'll read on the bag that these don't. But what you'll do is put them in the crock pot, which is to the right of the sink, and fill it up with filtered water and let them soak overnight. That's step 1. Step 2, the next day if you come in and there's beans that have been soaking and you know they've been soaking since the day before, which you find out by asking someone. Then you will strain the water out of the crock pot, and you will fill it with chicken broth, and cut up an onion to go in it, put the lid on it, and then depending on how much time we have, you'll decide whether it goes on high or low. It takes beans 8 hours to cook on low, and 4 hours to cook on high. So plan it out so we don't have to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning getting the beans out. You'll just have to figure out the hours, and likely no one works for 8 or 4 hour shifts, so you're probably going to have to plan them to be ready the next day. But that would be so helpful to all other volunteers and to us if you would look at the menu and see how many days has it been since they cooked beans, and plan that as part of your doing the dinner. So the other choices of food you will find out on the counter that under the sign will have, for instance, a brown bag if bananas are ripening. Look in there and see if they've got a few sugar spots. Pull them out if they do. Right now we've got melons under there, and if you don't know how to tell a ripe melon, ask me. Always make sure that the rat's food is something that you would eat yourself. They cannot eat underripe bananas. That will make them sick. They can't eat undercooked yams. And, okay, there's something else they can't eat. I can't remember right now. Basic rule of thumb is make sure it's something you eat yourself. If there's something in the refrigerator they can't have, I'll note it up here. For instance, right here I've got a note not to feed the rats red peppers or berries. I've got those in the refrigerator, but they're not organic, and so they're very dangerous for rats because those particular fruits and vegetables absorb a lot of pesticide. So if I've got something that's just for us to eat, I'll let you know on there. Otherwise, you go on the counter and to the list and to the refrigerator, and you decide for yourself what they're going to have. Don't feed them anything 2 days in a row. Oh, the refrigerator or up here in the counter, we also have dried fruit up here that they can have. So look at what they've had the day before, which I'm looking at the list for Wednesday. Today's Thursday. Wednesday they had bananas, broccolis, and cantaloupe. So, So anyway, you're going to pick anything else but that. So I'm checking in the refrigerator right now, and kind of try to help us keep the cost down by using things that need to be used up. For instance, the spinach is about halfway full. It doesn't keep a whole long time in here, so use the spinach tonight. And then, they already have broccoli, so we can't serve that. But here's some asparagus it's in a zipper bag, so we know that it's already been opened. It's already starting to look like it might be going bad in a few days, so let's get that used. In other words, open this before you serve dried fruit or before you open a new package of something. Make sure that we're using up the oldest stuff first. Now, if it's so old that it's brown or wilted or it's got slime on it or something, and even if you don't like asparagus, which you might say, well, I'm not going to eat that, so I'm not going to feed it to them. Just think about whether the average person would eat it. So if it's so bad, come ask me or just throw it out. Just make sure everything is really fresh, no bruised fruit or vegetables. So I'm going to choose asparagus. You can always go out in the garage too. We always have extra food out in the garage, so go check on the ground or on the shelves out there. Like I can tell you right now, for instance, we have onions and yams and a big bag of apples and a big box of oranges. So I could pick apples because they're here in the refrigerator, but I happen to know apples are the easy choice because they're way easier to cut, and a lot of people don't want to go to the trouble to cut an orange. And I'm looking up there, and it's been 5 days since they had an orange. We've got a whole case of oranges out there that's going to go bad if we don't use them. So I'm going to stop the video again and go out to the garage and get about 3 oranges just to make sure I have enough.